All right, welcome back, and this would be the latest thing we're going to take a look at. Very nice old Yamaha CR2040 stereo receiver from the late 70s, early 80s. And this unit belongs to a customer of mine who has a fairly large collection of vintage audio. And he purchased this back in the summer, probably around June or July, and I've actually worked on this once. The problem at that time was the speaker selector switch went bad. And unfortunately, I couldn't fix it, and there was no used part on eBay at that time. So we made the decision that I would leave the mechanical portion of it in place for aesthetics reasons and just jumper out the A speaker side of it so the receiver could still be used. At this point, he's saying that, again, he doesn't have any sound. So I'll be doing the same basic troubleshoot that I did the first time, checking the preamp, checking the main amp, and finding out what's working and what's not working. I would find it very difficult to believe something happened to the modification underneath the bottom of the board for the speaker switch to be causing this, but we will definitely look into that. So I think what we'll do here is we'll get the top off of it, come in for some internal views, and then take our troubleshooting from that point. So give me a minute to get set up for that, and we'll come back and have a look. All right, coming back in for a little closer look at the front of this. Going to find all your standard stuff here. This particular one has a set of output level meters on it. The right one is a shared meter between the output level and the signal quality of the tuner signal coming in. Also an FM centering meter. Then across the bottom, just the standard stuff. Got your high and low filter switches. This is the portion I left in place for the speaker switch. It's not functional, but it's just there for looks. And then, of course, bass treble, and this one does have presence or mid-range control. And then the standard phono selector, which was popular with the Yamaha, record out selector. Quite a few knobs on this one. The front of this is a really long receiver across the front. Coming up over the top, taking a look at the tuner on the right hand side. That board is independent of the rest of it. Down in front, your tone control and preamp. Right in the center, have your right and left channel amplifier, main amp with independent heat sinks. Very long bolts, probably going all the way through to the bottom of the frame. One thing I noticed about this when I had it the first time, it does use those funky winged outputs that haven't been available for many years. There's 4 of them on each side, so hopefully there's No problem there. Just kind of looking around, I haven't seen anything burned up. That's a good sign. All the wiring is labeled and laid out nice. The only thing that could have been better is if there was plugs to where the whole channel could just be removed. Left-hand side, power supply, protection circuitry down here. It's got some use on it, some grime. Imagine protection circuit IC there. Not sure what the two pots are for, maybe for the output level meters. So yeah, I'm interested in seeing what's going on with this. If we spin it around, right there is where the electrical portion of the speaker selector switch used to be. I went ahead and removed it completely and just left the small mechanical portion. So I'll be interested in seeing if there's anything going on with that. So let me get set up and we'll come back and start hooking it up and find out what's working and what's not working. So give me a second and we'll get set up for that and come back. All right, coming back, and we have it, speakers out of the Yamaha patched into the bench receiver speakers, and we have a signal, but just as he said, there is nothing. There's an adapter switch here, and if that's pushed in, then of course you'll get no sound either. Basically what that does is give you a loop in the preamp or in the tone control amp if you want to add an EQ, but that switch is not the issue. So I think the thing to do is, since that relay clicked when I turned it on, the amplifier is working as far as I can tell. So I think what I want to do is come out of the bench receiver through the headphone jack, which would be a variable signal, and let's jack it into the back of the receiver. On the adapter side, there's a to and a from. To meaning you're sending a signal to an external piece of equipment, and from means there's a signal coming back that's going to enter into the receiver. So let's press the adapter button and see what happens there. We got nothing. There ain't nothing happening there. And that's not, there's just the faintest signal there. But that's not an actual direct into the amplifier signal. That's before you even get to the amplifier. That's on the tone control. Preamp and tone control, or actually tone control, not preamp. So probably the next thing we want to do is see if we can inject directly at the amplifier and see if we can get a signal that way. So give me a second, I'll have to chop up a cable, jump it in there, and see if we can get a signal directly at the amp. All right, coming back in, and this is what we got. Unfortunately, that's being signals coming from the bench receiver. Let's turn it down a little bit. Well, there really is no turning it down. It's just so loud. Basically, 3.5 coming out of the headphone jack of the receiver. That receiver doesn't have a preamp out on it. Cut it up, use some jumper cables, and jumpered it into the input, direct input of the amplifier channels, right and left. And it is working, so there is no issue with the amplifier. So that pretty much eliminates any concern I would have had about my own modification with the speaker switch. So this puts the problem right back into the preamp or the tone control of the unit. And I did take a line from record out into the bench receiver. The tuner is working. There's no issue there. So puts us right back into the preamp, having an issue with that. So I think what we'll want to do here is see if we can start tapping around voltage wise. One of the things that I noticed is when I was looking at this, and it's hard to see it, maybe if I move that wire out of the way, it wouldn't be so hard. Get a light on this situation. Yeah, you can see, maybe. Come on, you can do it, focus. There it is. 4558 op amp. There's at least two of them that I see. So the first thing I think I want to do is make sure we have voltage there. There should be positive and negative 15 volts on each one of those. And there's a pair of them there. So before we condemn any kind of capacitor problem, any kind of issue with the ICs, is to confirm we don't have a power supply issue. So let me get set up. I'll put the camera in the tripod and we'll flip it up on end and get the meter out and start doing a little voltage checks. All right, coming back in with the unit stood on its end so we can have access to the bottom side or solder side of the board in an effort to do some voltage checks. And trying to put the camera in the tripod and show you the voltage checks I'm trying to make and the area I'm trying to make them in just isn't really going to work out. So we're just going to kind of freehand this part as we do the voltage checks. Basically what I was looking for is the two op amps on the top of the board. I wanted to spot those underneath the solder side, and top one is right there and the bottom one is right there. And as it turns out, my first initial theory right out of the gate is shot down in flames. We do have the negative 15 and we also have the positive. The positive voltage is a little bit low, but that's not enough to where I would consider that to be any kind of a real issue at this point. So that was the top op amp, and then the bottom op amp, same deal, positive, and then coming back we have the negative voltage, or excuse me, we have the negative voltage. So I'm still leaning towards this being a power supply issue. The fact that both channels aren't working, we have hardly any sound at all, leads me to believe that we're still missing some kind of a voltage there. So I think the next thing I want to do is let's flip the unit back over so we can look down through the top side of the board by that power supply. I'll put the camera on top of the magnifier and let's just look around and see if we can spot anything that may have burned up, a burnt resistor, anything out of the ordinary. Because at this point, again, I'm leaning towards still a power supply problem, even though the two primary voltages for the op amps is present and working fine. So let me get that set up and we'll come back. All right, coming back in now with the service manual pulled, and we're in full-on troubleshooting mode, trying to get it figured out. Originally, I theorized that I had a power supply problem, and the first place I wanted to look was at my 4558 op amps, looking for my plus and minus 12 volts. 12 to 15 volts is acceptable voltage for these, but I did have my 12 volts plus and minus there. And so at that point I was like, well, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's not power supply. But I got to looking around, and that's when I discovered that there is also this. Oops, let's bring this back down. This is an HA1457 preamp IC, and I also need a plus and minus voltage here, 24 volts plus and minus. So Given the 12 volts that's needed for the op amps and the 24 volts that's needed for this, the next logical question is, where do these voltages come from? And so as we scan over to the other side of the manual, everything kind of becomes clear. At the edge of that tone control board, and I'll show you where that comes in, we get our plus and minus 60 volts coming in. The first thing that happens is it hits two 3.9K resistors and two 1.8K resistors. The 3.9K resistors are responsible for dropping it down to the 12 volts needed for the 4558 op amps. The 1.8K resistors are responsible for dropping it down to the 24 volts needed for the 1457 preamp IC. So when I did a voltage check right here at the starting point where the voltage comes in, I have my plus and minus 60 volts at the entrance of my two resistors. On the opposite side, my 3.9, I already know that I've got 12 volts there because we have the 12 volts at the op amp. But what I don't have is on the other side of the 1.K resistors, I do not have any voltage coming out. So let me show you where those are at in the circuit in the unit. And they're kind of hard to see. I put an LED flashlight down in here so we can take a look at them. But there they are laying right there. And right here is where the voltage comes in on those two pins right there. And immediately hits the resistor network to chop it down to a lower usable voltage. So one or two things. We either have two open resistors or we have something, which would be that preamp IC, shorted and drawing them down. But I would think if that IC was shorted, it'd have a hole blown in it. So I think the next step, let's pull these guys out, do a resistance check and see if they're open. All right, coming back in now with some interesting developments on this breaking story for sure. This is the bottom side of the board, obviously. And here's where everything lines up. On the outside, the 3.9K resistors, and on the inside, the 1.8Ks. One side of each one of the 1.8Ks has been unsoldered. So, check out this noise. $1811, there ain't anything wrong there. 1770. Granted, they're a little wacky on the tolerance, they're a little bit off, but that's not enough to create the problem of disappearing voltage. So I'm going to think the next step, tracing it back a little bit further, looking at the service manual, looks like it goes through a few capacitors and winds up back at the IC. So I think in an effort to maximize time, I'm going to unsolder the IC. I'm going to unsolder the pins for the plus and minus 24 volts. We're going to resolder the resistors and recheck the voltage and see if we have the voltage there. So give me a second to do that and we'll come back. Yeah, you'll notice there's only 1 meter moving. All right, what happened here was we did go ahead and solder back up our two 1.K resistors. Follow that up to the top, and we have two of our 1457 ICs. The first one I unsoldered, of course, was the wrong one. Unsoldered it, went back down to the resistors, nothing. Went back, unsoldered the second one, boom, voltage comes back up. So I would say we have a shorted IC that's drawing it down, but I know that part is obsolete, so hopefully for his sake there's a supporting component that maybe shorted on that line, but I don't see how it would be possible because I don't think the other one would work because they both share the same voltage input. So we'll have to see. Maybe there's something there that is not the IC that's causing it, but at this point right now, it looks like the HA1457 preamp IC that hasn't been available for about 20 years is the problem. So it's getting pretty late tonight. It's about 9:15, so we'll come back tomorrow with a fresh set of eyes and confirm for sure that that's what it is. And check my parts stock, I might have one. So that's it. Okay, picking back up today on the Yamaha where we left off last night. Basically getting to the point where we're 99.9% sure that our HA1457 preamp IC is the real culprit, and without a doubt today we know for a fact that that is true. What I did was just start tapping around on the pins, and this is an 8-pin IC, and they've omitted the second pin. It's not used in the circuit, but if we count these off, 1, 2, 3, 4, between the 4th pin and the 8th pin, and the 4th pin is the negative input voltage and the 8th pin is the positive input voltage, we clearly have a short there. And so that would certainly explain why we had no voltage. I didn't really doubt that this was the problem. It was just, I think I was reaching a little bit. I knew this part was going to be difficult to obtain. I don't have one, and I went over to my friend's shop today. He did have a couple of junked out Yamaha units, but neither one used that particular part. So did a little quick research. I know there's some available on eBay, but I'll need to look through those and see what's what possibly, you know, could be a used part. Would probably be more ideal for me than just rolling the dice on something that I don't know if it's the real thing or something that was a knockoff. So I'll be doing a little research on that, speaking with the customer, see if he wants to invest the money to get this fixed. I'm sure he probably will. It's a pretty nice receiver. So I think we'll leave this as part 1, and once I have gotten the part, we'll come back and do a part 2, and it should be fairly quick video, just to drop the IC in and do a little testing with it and be done. So anyway, thank you all for watching part 1, and we'll see you next time for part 2.